The Vision of Alberic. Toward the beginning of the 12th century, in a castle called the Castle of the Seven Brothers, Alberic, the son of the lord of the castle, remained 9 entire days in a condition of unconsciousness. It was while in this state that at the age of 8 years he had the following vision, which is related in the first person. A bird of white plumage, like a dove, gently placed its beak into my mouth. I felt that he drew something thence, I knew not what. Then seizing me by the hair, he raised me up into space. And soon the Apostle Peter appeared, accompanied by 2 angels, and they conducted me to the place where evildoers undergo their punishments. I saw first a vast circle in which was a multitude of very young children in the midst of burning mists. St. Peter told me it was here that those whom death had stricken before baptism were purified. Then the apostle directed my attention to a terrible valley filled with innumerable mountains of ice, the summits of which the eye could scarcely see. In the ice were tormented many souls. Some were in it up to their knees, others to their middles, and still others to their breasts, according to the gravity of their crimes. A few plunged in head foremost, had only their legs protruding. St. Peter informed me that these were such as had committed rape, adultery, or incest. We next passed into another valley, not less horrible, full of trees and sword-like branches, from which were suspended women whose breasts were being constantly sucked dry by serpents. These were women who had refused to foster little orphan children. I also saw in the same valley still other women suspended from trees by their hair, with flames beneath them, and these, I was told, were those who had indulged in unlawful loves. Further on there was a ladder of white hot iron, of immense height, covered with spikes. Those who were forced to ascend it soon fell, and were engulfed in a vast lake of burning oil and rosin. Thus the apostles told me were punished those who had not restrained their fleshy appetites on Sundays, holy days, and fast days. For it is absolutely necessary to deny oneself all carnal pleasures on these days, and to consecrate them to works of charity. I was then conducted to a great lake filled, as it seemed to me, with blood. But my guide told me it was fire, into which homicides and tyrants were plunged. For 3 years the murderer was forced to carry upon his neck a demon in the form of his victim, after which he was hurled into this lake. We finally arrived at the very mouth of the infernal chasm, resembling a vast pit. The eye could not pierce the darkness. A terrible odor and a frightful lamentation proceeded forth from it. At the entrance was chained an enormous and hideous 2-headed serpent. Before one of its mouths was an infinite multitude of souls, whom the monster inhaled like flies, disgorging them again from the other mouth in the form of burning embers. I next saw a lake of liquid metal, from which issued jets of flame which consumed the sacrilegious and such as had practiced simony. The apostle next conducted me to a sea of sulphurous fire, in which a multitude of souls were wallowing, tormented by serpents with which demons struck their faces. These were false witnesses. Through the middle of the plain, where I now found myself, flowed a burning river. Across it was thrown a bridge of iron, very broad at first, but as narrow as a simple thread towards the center. The less sinful a soul, the greater the rapidity with which it crossed the bridge. The more sinful ones, upon reaching the center, fell into the boiling flood below. Demons drew them out and replaced them upon the bridge, whence they again fell, and so on until purged of their crimes, when they could cross the bridge with ease. This, the apostle told me, was the bridge of purgatory. Continuing upon our way, we arrived at a valley which my guide informed me is required 3 days and nights to traverse. It was so strewn with thorns and obstructions that the foot left no mark upon it. I saw a demon mounted upon an immense dragon, and brandishing hideous serpents in his hand. As soon as a soul arrived in this valley, the demon pursued it across the country continually, scourging it with the serpents. When this punishment had continued until the soul was cleansed of its crimes by grief, it then acquired the airiness necessary to permit it to escape from the pursuit of the monster. The souls then entered a flourishing country, exhaling the sweetness and sweetest perfumes, where its limbs torn by the thorns are healed of their wounds. The soul of the just who dwell here, enjoying blessed repose, welcome the new arrival and congratulate him upon having escaped the common enemy.